Good evening, Vicksburg, and welcome to tonight's Village Council regular session. It's Monday, December 4th, 2023. Call this meeting to order. And if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a quick moment of silence here, please. If you would, Christian, do a roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. I have a full council tonight. Thank you all for being here. We have an agenda in front of us. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review it. Mr. Mallory, are there any additions or corrections?
There are not.
Anything the council would like to see added? Hearing none, entertain a motion to accept the approval of the agenda as.
So moved. Support.
Motion made by trustee Keller and support by trustee Wagner. We'll do, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries. We have an agenda in front of us, so we have no scheduled appearances tonight, or no public official appearances on the list. This is a time for citizens' comments for agenda items only. Now, if you'd like to step forward, it'd be the time to make those. Seeing none or hearing none, we'll move on. We have our general consent agenda. We have our minutes from our regular council meeting, November 20th, 2023, warrant reports, there's no event requests, no correspondence. Everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting. Any corrections or? None. Entertain a motion to approve the general consent agenda.
I move to approve as submit.
Support.
Trustee Wagner made the motion and support by trustee Reister. I'll do a roll call, please, Christian.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Motion carries. So we have item 10 tonight, village council action items. So our village attorney, Mr. Steve Mann, will be presenting to us virtually. Thank you, Steve, for being here tonight.
Yeah, if I
Thank you,
can,
Mr. President,
Steve.
members of the council.
Yeah, can I, if I can, before you start, just again on all first four council items tonight, it is immeasurable, and I can't convey the council. We've been working on a couple of these items with Steve the last few months on how appreciative staff is of one, Mr. Mann's patience with some of mine specifically questions, and his explanation of the benefit to the village of Vicksburg. And you'll see as we move in for the next 6 months, multiple ordinance be placed in front of the right or government bodies to ensure that we get them to what we're terminology in the 2023 era and forward. So Steve, publicly, I just wanted to say from all of us at staff, thank you, and thank your team for the work you've put in. And obviously you're compensated, but you go above and beyond that for sure for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. We appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate the ability to work and the ability to work with you and with the village.
And now, since I'll have a lot of technical questions, I'll just turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you. I'll address the next two items kind of together, and those are the resolutions authorizing the publication of notices of intent to issue bonds for the village's water and sewer projects. The village has applied and has been approved by USDA Rural Development for loans for each of these projects. And although USDA calls this a loan program, as Village Council knows, you can only borrow money through the issuance of bonds. So in order to evidence receiving the loan, the village issues bonds, and at closing, literally executes and gives those bonds to USDA in return for draws, construction draws to pay for the project. So the first step in bonding is for the village to authorize a resolution declaring its intent to issue bonds for each of these projects, the water and the sewer projects. And following approval, then the village clerk will publish a bond notice for each water loan and each sewer loan in the local newspaper. And that starts a 45-day referendum period whereby any interested elector, if they desired, they could circulate referendum petitions and file those and try to force the question of issuing the bonds onto the ballot. That's very rare. We typically only see that with controversial projects. So these two resolutions are the first step in the bonding process. Once they're adopted, the notices are published. Your village engineers will continue to design the projects, work with USDA to get approval to bid, and then we'll bid the project out. And then once bids are in, we'll finalize the final cost and come back to Village Council with another action for each loan, and that's a bond ordinance, which would actually authorize the actual amount of the bonds, the terms, and so forth. That's the main purpose of each resolution. The second purpose is under federal tax laws that apply to tax-exempt bonds. It's required that before the village spend any money on hard costs, that's construction or ordering supplies, you have to make a declaration of your intent to reimburse yourself in the future from bond proceeds. So each of these resolutions does that as well. We get into the weeds a little bit, but these bonds will be sold to USDA, and USDA doesn't pay, the U.S. government doesn't pay state or federal income taxes, so the bonds would be taxable to start with, but we still like to make this declaration early on because in the future, 8, 9, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, if there's an opportunity for the village to issue bonds at a lower rate to pay these bonds off, you would do that on a tax-exempt basis. So it's just protecting the options of the village in the future. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on either of the resolutions.
I would like to add, so we're on these projects have been in front of the council multiple times. Like on the first resolution under 10A is the water main and lead line. Within that project is a $1.2 million grant the village received to offset the cost of that, as well as a commitment from the council of utilizing our $380,000 of ARPA funds on that project. And the second one is on what we've referred to quite often as the last lift station in the village in Sprinkle Road. So. But if you have any questions, that's why we have Steve here.
Steve, hi,
Yeah,
it's
that's very
Rick
good.
Holmes. What is the interest rate again and the duration of the loan again, or
Good.
the bond?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So USDA is the preferred lender for smaller communities because they make it more affordable to borrow. Let me switch my screen here to the water loan. So the water loan, USDA does 40-year terms. So both of these loans will be issued initially at a period of 40 years. But you do have the ability with USDA to prepay these loans at any time starting 1 year after you issue them. So some issuers will prepay a little bit each year to bring the loan down, or if you experience increased revenues or new users and you have additional funds that were unanticipated, you could pay the bonds off early. But they're 40-year loans to start with. With respect to the water loan, with USDA, each quarter, they change the interest rate on their loan. So depending on when you apply and when you're approved for the loan, that's what sets the interest rate. But also, once they set the interest rate, and I'll tell you what those are in just a minute, once they set the interest rate, you proceed to design your project and bid it out. There's going to be some time before you get to closing. If loan rates come down before you get to closing, you'll get the lower rate of whatever rate they obligated you at initially, or the lower rate at closing. Now, recently, since these loans, rates have been going up. So whether they'll come down to what they've been obligated at or not, we don't know. But for the water loan, it's a 40-year loan at an interest rate of 3%, which is well below today's municipal bond market rates. And for the sewer loan, it's even lower. It's $6,960,000 loan for 40 years at 2%, which is a rate you really can't beat.
On that, the water project has been out to bid and concludes either this Thursday or next Thursday. We'll open those bid packages to see if they're within the estimated range. On the sewer side, we anticipate in the first 6 months of next year that will be designed, as there's some easement rights that we've secured and are in the process of securing. And then also that sewer is tied to the $3.7 million grant that we received federally from the EDA.
And both of these resolutions are prepared a little bit above the loan amount that's approved by USDA to safeguard against bids coming in higher than anticipated and then having to go through a 45-day referendum period again. So it gives flexibility. And again, USDA will only approve the loan amount, final loan amounts based on the actual bids. And that will come back before you in two forms. One, for approval of those construction bids, and then secondly, an ordinance to approve each series of bonds. So you'll have, this will come back before you at least twice at a minimum.
I have a question. This is Wendy Fields. Hi. You said that if the rates,
No, look like it's on.
it is on. You said that the rates, sorry, I just need to get closer. You said that the rates, if they went down, or if they went down, that we could get a lower rate. Are we locked in at this 3 and 2 that you said now? So if those go up, will we go up?
No, that's a good question. And the village is locked in now. These are fixed rate loans. They're not variable loans. So you're locked in with the water at 3% and with the sewer at 2%. If by chance, when we get to closing sometime next year, USDA's rates for that particular quarter are lower than what you've been obligated at, then they'll let you take advantage and close on the lower rate.
And if they're higher, we will have the rate currently. And I think in the current quarter, is it 3.25 currently as we sit now, or 3.5?
Yeah, I think it's around 3.5 or maybe even 3.875.
So
But we're locked in.
we are locked in at no higher than 3% on the water, no higher than 2% on the sewer.
Correct.
Jim, as it relates to the Sprinkle Road project, can you just expand for me a little bit to understand, I guess, the current state of, for lack of a better word, the pipe? I mean, and kind of, you know, is there a flow issue, environmental issue? What's some of the reasons why we're replacing this pipe?
The pipe's approximately between 45 and 50 years old. It was originally an intact force main from our last lift station to the city of Portage. In the late 90s or early 2000s, South County Sewer Authority was formed for Indian Lake and Pickerel, I believe possibly a portion of Austin Lake, that brought that flow into those pipes, and then gravity fed into Portage. So when we started looking first at capacity from our SAW grant and overall in the first step project that that was involved in a couple years ago impacted our downtown. Part of that, when analyzing the totality of our system, the next priority was the Spruce Street lift station, which is our last lift station that pushes our flow to Portage. Through those discussions with the city of Portage, the current route goes through what's called the Davis Creek Interceptor and that lift station. And they asked us to design the system that would go up to Zileman. So this project then takes the flow, continues north on Sprinkle Road to Zileman, so it doesn't go close to the Austin Lake area. But it's age of pipes and investing for what is the next 75 years. And it was identified as kind of that next series of steps for Vicksburg to address.
Can you remind me again, you mentioned the I gotta put my glasses on. 3.7 million, I believe that was a grant
Yeah,
associated with
that's-
this. Can you just talk about the finances a little bit with me?
Sure. In this, and because it's a 40-year commitment with the federal government on the, to use these numbers, $6.9 million from USDA, we had, the overall project is between 10 and 11 million dollars it's anticipated. So we worked with the city of Portage, city of Kalamazoo to get resolutions, the county road commission for a resolution of support, and submitted a grant federally, looking at every avenue, and we're fortunate working with both of our senators in Washington as well as Senator McCann's office here in the state and Representative Matt Hall, and it was a transition period. Brant Iden was our state representative to secure $3.7 million out of the EDA. And I believe at the time it was the largest award for a village our size from that pool of money.
As far as sensitive issue here, as far as rates are concerned, what is the projected impact then this will have on water and sewer rates?
Well, the final analysis of that will be done once the bids are secured and evaluated. But we worked with Andy Campbell and Baker Tilly, and we presented the rates this fiscal year. There was an uptick from a typical 2 or 3% rate increase because it factored in the lead line project at the estimated cost as well as the sewer project. So we're attempting to avoid the situation we inherited back in the 17, 18, 19 time period when it had been many years that rates had been adjusted for the cost of operating the system, and we had a pretty substantial rate increase back then, so that's what we're trying to avoid. So the analysis was done on the estimated cost of what the bids were hoping to come back, but we'll do a final analysis when we open the bids and would present to the council for approval to enter into those contracts. We'd know then if there was additional impact.
Okay. I think it's
I can say this, and I don't mean to
Oh, no, go
interrupt
right
you,
ahead,
but
no.
a thought, on the lead line project, it's just under $1.6 million on a $3.1 million estimated project. So just to make percentages, it's the increase on rates is impacted 50% less than it would be had grant dollars not been secured. On the other project, the grant dollars are about 31%. So you could look at it, those grant dollars save 31%, what would have been transferred increase to the owners or the users of the utility.
I think it's a great point, Jim, and I'm not taking anything away from, I mean, the hard work that you and others have done to find the grant money and, you know, the additional funds that have been raised. I think it's great because it's fair to note that that's, I mean, it's helping offset this another real large project that we have. One last, I guess, question on this, and that is, as far as on that theme as it relates to finding additional funds out there, additional revenue, we know that any project has revenue and expenses, and you can only control expenses so much before you begin the project. Has there been any other consideration or any other revenue that has been looked at or is being looked at to try to help with offsetting the cost of this project?
Well, we looked in multiple areas, including for state assistance. We didn't make the initial cut in some state money that was available. And the water main project is a mandated project, as it'll impact, I think it's 110 lead lines that we're required to update. And so we looked under every potential revenue source that we could find or know about. And on these two projects, at least, very happy in comparison to other communities to have one of it almost 50% funded and the other one over 30% funded by grants. The requirement for the village is we'll, on estimate, have about another 400 lead lines to be replaced within about the next, I think it's 15 or 16 years and it's an unfunded mandate from the state. They gave us the mandate, and hopefully they have more money become available for communities our size to take advantage of. But it will be a challenge to be able to afford that. The next area, and we had gone over with the council, is basically Michigan Avenue to Kalamazoo, Washington to Highway Street, and right now that's estimated about $5.5 million. We did, by council action, I think within the last 2 years, have a $10 quarterly charge to help offset the lead lines cost to the village. Again, attempting to get out ahead of this to not have a substantial increase to the utility user and the rates. It's one of those topics, looking across Michigan, so many communities are facing, and we literally, anyone could Google search Michigan utility rates and get article after article where communities have had to make substantial increases to the utility user to be able to pay for these projects that are either mandated or necessitated due to the age of the system. I mean, last week, the village of Vicksburg, and we're not in where the ground has froze to the depths of our system, and last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were three separate water main breaks that DPW had to work. And two of the pipes were in excess, almost 90 years old, and the other pipe was at about the 70-year mark.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the detail. And the reason for my questions is I think we all know that this is probably one of the most sensitive or one of the top issues that we all hear when we talk to, our constituents. And I mean, everything that's been shared here tonight, I think is, from my perspective, it's responsible government. We're looking, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to update and modernize our water and sewer system that has not been taken care of over the years. I think the challenge that I have, Jim, is, or I don't have necessarily a challenge, it's just balancing that with the fact that, I mean, we're in a situation, it's just a challenge for people right now as it relates to this issue. This is a dining table issue for people. And the thought that I just had when I was looking this over this weekend was, you know, have we looked at hookup fees? Have we looked at changing our hookup fees? Because our rate is, I believe it's $1,400 for sewer and $14 for water. And, I mean, just looking at examples around the area, I mean, Portage last year increased their water and sewer by 75%, but they also increased their water and hookup fee to $10,000 for water and $10,000 for sewer. If those, and that's what I Googled, that's what I was able to find out. Texas Township is in excess of $10,000. So I'm just curious if we look at that, is there any opportunity for new residents to shoulder the burden versus
There's
the residents
a
continuing to
form.
shoulder the burden?
Yeah, there's a formula that's used, and we've engaged Baker Tilly, and those at the $2,800 for water and sewer is based on their analyzing those rates at what. So there's a specified formula. I don't know the details on those hookup fees of other municipalities, if you're talking industrial type hookups or that. I have had conversations with Baker Tilly that it's probable the council will see a recommendation from staff that is outside of project-specific Baker Tilly advice, but looking and analyzing it on a yearly or no more than biannual basis to ensure that all of those charges are appropriate to operate the system.
And I appreciate that, and I know we're taking direction from Baker Tilly on the rates. It's, again, and I'm not necessarily saying anything is being done wrong here. What I'm just asking, or what I'm, I'm saying is that really I'd feel more comfortable in making this decision if I knew, whether or not there would be an opportunity to look for additional revenue. And I understand on a state level, federal level, what we've done, but the reality simply here is that if, we have new homes coming in on the west side of this community. And by the way, this council approves rate increases. We could do it tonight if we wanted to, and I'm not suggesting we do that. But I'm just saying it's that straightforward what we can do if we wanted to find additional revenue for the folks. But I would like to hear more about this, Jim, instead of it just simply being that's what Baker Tilly does. I really would. I think there needs to be much more exploratory. We look at this more than what's been done.
There's oversight in this, and I'm not saying you're suggesting this, but the council, or I'll just say a municipality, cannot say, okay, we need to come up with revenue, so we're going to establish a rate in the village of Vicksburg at X thousands of dollars for water and sewer, and that rate not have a justification behind it in the operations of our system. So Baker Tilly, it's in the hundreds of municipalities in the state of Michigan. They're kind of if you go in for heart surgery, you want a heart surgeon to do that. So they're the finite expert to ensure that whatever charges we have, there's a justification behind it in the operations of our system.
Right. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. I think, fellow council members, my position tonight is I think the unfunded mandate that's on the east side of town is something that I can support. I'm not able to support the Sprinkle Road project at this time. I would feel more comfortable in having identified again, if there is an opportunity for additional revenue to offset this. And the reason I'm taking this position is, quite simply, is that I've sat down and I've talked with people in the community, as I know all of us have. And this is not an issue I take lightly. When I talk with Norma Palmer, and she tells me that she doesn't know whether or not she can buy her medication this month, folks, that's real. It's a real issue. And the thing is that when we look at things on council, rightfully, we silo them. We look at all the issues around this, but the thing is, our residents don't. They don't, and unfortunately, and I'll leave it at that. I won't pontificate anymore, but I just thought it'd be fair to let you know how I feel
If
about
I can suggest, and Mr. Mann did a good job on items 10A and 10B, but if we can take them now one at a time, and I would recommend if the village president sees fit that he entertain a motion for 10A, see if that motion is seconded, open the conversation specific to the resolution 10A. At a point, that motion, if there is a second, would be called for the vote, and then take these individually.
All right, that is good clarification, good point of order.
Mr. President, if I can real quick, Jim, just so we're clear, this is basically a preseason to the regular season. This is step one of 3 or 4 steps that, this is just authorizing to be able to go out and solicit, to post a resolution for bonds to be issued so we can entertain bids. The council, at any point after this, if they decide it's not what they want, they can vote it down, correct? They can stop
Yeah,
it.
you're correct. This
Okay,
is the
thank you.
publishing of to be able to secure the loans and publishing that, and then once we open the bids.
This is basically the legalese to make sure we're doing everything above board is what this is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Nothing obligates, nothing in these resolutions or publishing the bond notices obligates the village to proceed with the loans.
Right, so we have.
Excuse me, President Frisbee, I apologize. I just wanted to add, if I could follow up on this, on the 2 points that were made. If that's the case, then it sounds like we have time. We have time here, is what it sounds like. And if that's the case, then I don't know if I need to make a motion to ask the village manager to get back with us on how competitive our existing hookup rates are, and suggestions from Baker Tilly as well as him as it relates to possible council motion on that. I don't know.
It's 2 different issues, Trustee Holmes. The issue in front of tonight, we're about ready to open up on 10A, the actual submitted bids. If I'm hearing you correctly, it's not tied to the action items in front of the council tonight.
That's true, that's true. We can have some discussion on, Mr. Mann has given his presentation. I think we understand what is in front of us.
Once the bids are open, as I said, at that point, we'll know what the bids are, when it's presented, and if it is presented, it's only going to be presented because staff's recommending the council go into this. Those finite details would come at that time.
So specifically, we have 10A in front of us, a staff recommendation for resolution authorizing the publication of notice of intent to issue revenue bonds pursuant to Act 94. So that is for 12042-023-1. What is this board's?
President Frisbee, I make a motion that we approve resolution 1204-2023-01 for the amount, the project for the lead line replacement, basically in the northeast side of the village.
Do we have support?
Support.
So we can open up this 10A for any further discussion now.
President Frisbee, I know it's the necessary evil that we have to do, and this village is growing leaps and bounds. the water and sewer rates do concern me greatly, and I hear about it just as everybody else does. The fact is, if we go ahead with this project, the rates are gonna go up again. The fact that Kalamazoo City last night approved another 6% increase does not make me feel well, because we have the trickle-down effect. It's gonna come right back to us. Well, we pay for sewer, and our sewer goes straight through to Kalamazoo. And their plant is in need of dire repair and expansion. And that's why they did the 20% last year.
President Frisbee? Yes, sir. Just to be clear, this is for the lead line replacement. This has nothing to do with sewer, this first resolution.
First resolution.
Yeah, that's all this is.
Okay.
So this is
Well,
something,
and, okay, but at what point do I speak up, you know? We're bouncing this thing, you know, back and forth, and, you know, we're talking lead line on one thing, we're talking water and sewer on the other. So, I'm just throwing it out there. This is a statement. I'm not asking questions, I'm not making decisions right now, but what I'm doing is presenting facts. And I understand, and I believe that the U.S. government should be funding this entire thing. The other ones that call for it, the state of Michigan called for it, they should come up with resolutions. They should come up with solutions to the problem. You know, so, and it's gonna take us, what, another 10 years to finish this thing. Benton Harbor just knocked theirs off in less than a year. And that's a broke city. So, I mean, everybody's concerned about it. So, I guess I'm just making more of a statement than I am questions.
Thank you, Denny. And as to Rick, what you said you started off your statement with saying that the rates will go up. So let's recall back 2 years ago and last year when Baker Tilly approached us on the rate resolutions that we put in effect. These all were planned within that. These have all been forecasted out. The thing we want to avoid is coming to this end and saying, oh, well, we need another 10%. We've already been proactive in that. We've already set the rates based on this expenditure that we're seeing. So I don't, unless we get smoked with some ridiculous pricing and then we have to revisit whether we approve that or not. But we can't just carte blanche say the rates are going up because we've already prepared for this. Our residents and ourselves all have been impacted by this already. Yep. So let's kind of clarify that. This is not a guaranteed rate increase by any means.
If I could, I'd just like to echo what President Frisbee said. That was my understanding when we approved our most recent rate increases, is that having previously discussed both of these items that are in front of us today, is that our previous increase in reassessment of those water and sewer rates were based on the assumption that we were to go forward with these projects, as those were the highest cost estimates we had to our system, so that we could, in order to show the income to the USDA to support the bond issuance that we would be going for. So my understanding was that with the pending approval of these, if they went forward, we were already forecasting that into the rate increases we've had. But then any future projects or assessments and things like that outside of these that we're looking at now would be impacted into those rates and for future assessments, if that's correct. Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. And that's actually was one of the questions I couldn't see without my glasses, Jim, was how does this affect rates? And I think I asked that, but it wasn't as clear as what Ryan's was. I don't disagree with you, Ryan, but the thing is this, to Denny's point, and that is that the transfer cost of this, we don't know what Kalamazoo and Portage are going to do. And I think that's what we're always going to be hung on. We don't know. We only know what we know at this minute. We have a very short prism that we can look through. And that's the difficulty of being in these seats, is that we have to make those decisions with the information we have. Again, my position on this, is simply, I don't feel there's a sense of urgency with sprinkle. I do feel there's a sense of urgency with the lead lines. And subsequently, unless I could see some additional consideration for additional revenue areas, and I'm not saying that we have to find it, I'm just saying additional consideration, I have a hard time supporting this measure.
President Frisbee, I call previous question.
Thank you so much. So we, barring any further discussion on 10A, we have a motion by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Reister. Will you do a roll call, please, Christian?
We're sharing a microphone. If everyone remembers, Mary Balkema broke our stand at the groundbreaking.
Just one issue of cost savings at the village.
Yeah.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Fields, Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. So this takes us on to 10B, a resolution 1204-2023-02. Resolution authorizing publication of notice to issue and sell revenue bonds pursuant to Act 94. And if you all care, I could read the rest of this, but.
I think it's, the important part is in the amount not to exceed $8 million for the purposes is, and just to clarify, the project already, went to council to proceed based on that data. And this is, again, to move the paperwork in the USDA and wait. And I anticipate that in the first 4 months, probably April, May timeframe, going to bid, and 30 days later receiving the bids on that project. And once we get there, then we would present those details. But both President Frisbee and Trustee Wagner are correct that when we did the rate presentation to the council for the budget presentation, it factored these projects in, that they would move forward under the estimated cost. That's how we establish those rates, but both of these rates are within the billings now.
So we have a request by staff to approve this next resolution. What is the desire of this council?
I make a motion to support resolution 1204-2023-02, authorizing publication of notice to issue and sell revenue bonds pursuant to Act 94 in an amount not to exceed $8 million.
Support.
So we have a motion to support. Open it up of council for further discussion.
Just a final comment, President Frisbee. I understand that this vote is just simply to authorize publication of a notice that we're going to issue bonds. But I don't know if you've heard several times that we've been reminded that we voted for this before. So the weight of this carries to the next vote and the next vote. So the reality is this is the vote, okay? From my perspective, this is the vote. And I just want to say that to this council.
Any further discussion? Kristen, would you do a roll call, please?
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
No.
Trustee Olson,
No.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Thank you all. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll jump into 10C sewer ordinance update.
Yeah, and I'll turn this over to Steve, and once again, he'll summarize both 10C and 10D, because foundationally, the same motivation existed to update these ordinances. And then once the council, after maybe the questions you might have for Attorney Mann, then the question will be on the floor on 10C and then 10D. Turn it over to you, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. So I've been working with the village staff for quite a while. This issue probably came up about a year ago or so, regarding updates to the village's water and sewer ordinances. which have not really been updated in any meaningful sense since about 1996. So they're a little bit dated, both respect to some of the language that was in the ordinances and with the village's practices in certain respects. So we've made updates to both ordinances to strengthen the village's position in the event that it is challenged, say there's a rate challenge or a user challenge or whatnot. We've made several revisions to bring the practices in line with the ordinances with respect to size of water meters required for residential dwellings, how overages are estimated or unmetered service is estimated. There are references to village administrator, which was updated to village manager. And there are several references to approvals by the village, which we've revised to say by the village or its authorized representative, such as the manager. We've also added what we think is some strong language regarding the methodology for the rates and setting that fairly and proportionate to the use of each classification of user. We've also updated the billing practices with respect to when bills go out, when they're due, and the current rate structure that the village uses for each system. With respect to the water ordinance specifically, we've added a mandatory connection requirement for new developments that abut a village water line. We've also incorporated your $10 per quarter lead service line into this ordinance, which you previously approved by resolution. And with respect to the sewer ordinance, we've revised the mandatory connection from an 18-month period, which is extremely long, to a 4-month period. And then for new construction, the requirement to connect to the sewer would be immediately. We also made a little clarification under the sewer ordinance with respect to trade secrets, which the ordinance said would be protected and not disclosed and confidentially, essentially. However, we've added a caveat that that's subject to FOIA, because a lot of times those things are subject to public disclosure. And that's a general overview of each ordinance. Happy to answer any questions that you might have specifically with respect to either.
Any questions for Steve on that?
Trustee Wagner, regarding the addition of the language about the new properties and development abutting to village water lines, would that also include like outside of the village limits, such as like a township that's bordering on our system? Because I know that we integrate really closely with Schoolcraft and Brady. So just a question to that, or is it specifically just to Village of Vicksburg property and development?
This would only apply to properties within the Village of Vicksburg, this ordinance.
Okay, thank
Both
you.
of these ordinances.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Steve, on that. So that was part of it. The water ordinance was the same? Or you were talking about both of them? All right. Well, no further questions, and we have a request in front of us for the approval of the ordinance. Do you want to do them one at a time, or sewer and water, roll them together? All right, so we have a request to approve the ordinance of sewer ordinance update. It's just council's desire.
President Frisbee, so moved.
I'll support.
Any further discussion? Motion was made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Wagner.
President Frisbee, real quick. Jim, when will this take effect? Immediately?
Go ahead, Steve.
I can answer that actually.
Sorry.
It'll take effect, it's okay. It'll take effect 20 days from now, assuming prompt publication.
Thank you.
We need to do a roll call?
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Fields, President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. And we'll do the same for the water ordinance.
I move to approve as submit.
Support.
Motion made by trustee Wagner, or support by trustee Fields. We'll do a roll call, please, Kristen.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Fields, trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Reister, President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. So we have a request in front of us for the village manager to enter to an agreement to sign professional planning and zoning agreement with McKenna.
Okay, before that, I'd like to thank Steve,
yes.
and I know he has a family in that. We should be good.
Thank you very much. Good to see everybody again,
Thank
and thank you for letting me appear remotely.
Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Same to you. Thank you.
Yes, basically, we've been, through our planning commission and council, you've had updated memos and such from McKenna that's outside of the master plan, contractual agreement. And working with the leadership at McKenna, felt it would be good to put in front of the council an agreement that seeking authorization that I sign, and their stated charges, as certainly have seen value in their presentation and research and diligence in planning commission zoning issues, and then internally staff is aware we've tonight got a request that had a zoning question in it that I had forwarded a little after 5 o'clock tonight to McKenna, and they had provided the citizen with a response at 6:05. So we use them, have engaged in that multiple times since this summer, and really a lot of that scope of work is outside of the master plan, and we're paying them these rates, but we both felt it would, and I encourage, let's put something together that we could put in front of the council and enter into a formal relationship on these zoning questions that come up and be able to utilize their expertise.
We didn't realize what Bobby Durkee brought to the table. We're gonna hire a whole company to replace him. So that's how important, the staff and I, we talk about it. I think we all see it, and we rely on the planning commission to be our zoning board, and, to have a professional organization be able to respond that quickly, I think is a benefit to this community.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that with the focus that the village has had, at least on my tenure on the council, for updating our ordinances, modernizing our practices, and solidifying that expertise within our staff, I think it's a great recommendation. Really glad we're going down this road because I think we still have a lot of improvements to be made on the ordinance and zoning. And this is only going to help us achieve those goals that we're soon to also release with our master plan and our strategic plan we've already identified. So I think this is a great move for us. And
Yeah,
thank you
and
to staff
as
at
an
McKenna.
example on that point, next Monday, there'll be text amendments done to industrial zoning that McKenna and Associates put together, because I'll just say it's at their level, that then is reviewed by an attorney versus an attorney staff putting it together, and we'll have multiple text amendments as in some of these ordinances versus full rewrites.
President Frisbee, if I could make a motion to approve the village manager to sign a professional planning and zoning service agreement with McKenna.
Support.
Motion by trustee Holmes, supported by President Pro Tem Keller.
Like 3 other people.
Well, open it up for further discussion.
Yeah,
real
Jim,
quick.
real quick, how long is this a 1-year
It'd be
renewable?
updated yearly with
Thank you.
updated cost.
Well, Jim, I have to appreciate you bringing this to the table, because actually, this is well within your rights of signature alone without bringing it in front of this council. It's with the retainer fees of $1,500 a month, so it looks like it's a pretty competitive quote as well.
Tim, if I could. Hey, Jim, just a couple questions. So thanks, Carl, for clarifying the length of the agreement. Is that something that they're bringing to us, or are we writing it and and giving it to them, I'm just curious, whose paper is it on?
They put together the specifics at what their charges would be to move forward, and within it is that, I don't know if the language is retainer, but it's like, we'll also check it monthly that one, we're utilizing $1,500 of service, and likewise, our conversation, Ben, it won't be well, we're utilizing it just because it's there, but we are projecting out for this fiscal year we're in, the need to have them in these ordinance updates in that.
Okay. I realize, obviously, we don't have the agreement in front of us. That's why I was asking, because on page 4, they're referencing that once per year that they have a consumer price and that they can increase prices by the CPI. First, maybe that might be PPI would be more appropriate, producer price index. It's more related to business than the CPI is. And the only other, just wanted to share with you, as someone who negotiates professionally, you know, trying to define the basis for any increase. It seems like there'd be a year that we would have the agreement. It would seem as if that would be the basis for any adjustment in pricing would be after the first year, if we're going to continue to write the agreement every subsequent year.
No, this is the agreement that is in front of you and was presented with the packet, and this was the same agreement that I would sign.
Oh.
So on page 4, these are the listed planning and zoning administrative services on an hourly basis that they'd be charging. We know going into a project, we've had a couple, whether they've been very involved in the 22nd Street neighborhood behind the scenes. I say behind the scenes, it's staff meetings, meetings with the developers, meetings with the Bigby's development. And we have an idea how many hours that will be in an approximate value. Any increase it's not going to occur mid-year ever. And as we go into the budget cycle, we'll have an updated agreement come before June 30th, if they do need any of these to have an increase, we would have it listed out in the fiscal. But there won't be a time in this agreement that they come and change based on any formula. These will be the hourly rates for this agreement.
Any further questions?
I'd just like to take a small opportunity to thank Bobby Durkee for his previous support, but looking forward to engaging a new partner who's already shown tremendous value to the village.
Well, we have motion and support. We'll do a roll call, please, Kristen.
Yes.
Trustee Beals,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries, thank you. So it takes us to the village manager's report.
Yes, sir. The first is, and I had looking at the impact that the Berg Days of Summer had on the village of Vicksburg and components within it, attendees, local businesses, our cultural arts program, just overall goodwill feelings and positive marketing on the village. Looking at continuing that in 24 and 25 summer, I began to look at ways to fund it. And the Vicksburg Foundation is meeting this week sometime. And in my communication with their chairperson, wanted to put a grant request together. And I ended up submitting that, and due to being between council meetings, I wanted to kind of give the council my thought process, is historically, we have, and this goes back quite a number of years, the full 8 years I've been here, have sought many requests, but an annual request has been the facade and now what is a public improvement grant opportunity. And this year, that doesn't change. We received $18,000, I believe it is, from the foundation, and are matching it with $18,000. And looking at the Berg Days request is about $20,000 to the foundation. Of course, again, you're all aware of multiple grant submissions that I've made on behalf of the village, and very graciously and we're appreciative of the help of the foundation. But looking at the financial position of the village, I made a commitment that if the foundation we submitted for a 2-year funding grant for Berg Days this summer, that we would not submit for additional grant dollars for anything that we could project right now at all. So I had talked to the chairperson of the Planning Commission, DDA, talked to a business owner member of the DDA, and just wanted the council to be aware that this grant was submitted. Obviously, as we move forward, if we're awarded it, we'll present both to the Planning Commission and DDA as well as the council, and it could be at the next meeting, and I'll get to the reason of the timing, but for 24-25 funding within a budget. So the reason for the timing was to secure the funding to know what budget we would be operating with. And from there, we could begin to enter the contracts for both the entertainment as well as, well, I guess the music entertainment and the family entertainment, the street games and the big blow-up operations for young kids and that to go through. And to get, our goal would be to have all that finalized by the end of February versus last year when it was a lot closer to the summer that we could pull it off. So that's, again, probably too long-winded or too much detail, but what motivated me to get the grant paperwork done and submitted between council meetings. It just came up, and then we started talking about the timing. The foundation doesn't meet again until the end of March. So that's what motivated it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. But again, if I'm hopeful to receive positive news in that, and then within that we'll make formal presentations to the Planning Commission, DDA Board, and Village Council to match it. And our fiscal analysis says we'd be matching it at about $25,000. I'll also ask, there's another funding opportunity I hope that is out there to assist, but those details would come if we get this initial seed money, if you will. The next item is the new municipal building. We do look at attempting to have an occupancy permit by December 11th or 12th. If that is obtained, we will have the police department start moving in on the 13th with administration parallel to that, or certainly on the 14th. We, again, are keeping to the first public meeting of January 29th. On December 18th, I'll be presenting the recommended dates of council meetings for the calendar year 2024. 2 of those dates I know early on, both Martin Luther King and Presidents in February fall on the third Monday of the month. I have asked our attorney to draft a communication, because as a federal holiday, even local governmental meetings, we could meet but not present anything for action. So on December 18th, you will hear staff recommending that we do not meet on Martin Luther King or the February holiday, and we'll spell that out in more detail. I just wanted to give you a heads up of the reasoning behind it. In January, it's not only the right thing to do, but this calendar year, it gives us enough time, hopefully, to get the current building demoed and temporary parking in place for that January 29th meeting. So that's where we are. There possibly, and it'll probably be a situation, we have the drop box at the old, where it is now. And as we're moving, it might be where we notice people by email, text messaging, social media, and an old-fashioned note on the door, moving out the back door, walking to utilize the drop box. So the actual physical building, I anticipate, will be closed a couple of those afternoons to help facilitate that move. Part of all the old cabinets, I'll call it, that store historical paperwork we have to keep will begin to move tomorrow morning from the current building to the basement of the new building. So it will not be part of upstairs or the operations. It's all in storage areas in the basement. So be happy to answer any questions on that.
When do we get tours?
Well,
Do you want to help move?
yeah.
Tomorrow.
Be happy to give a tour at any time. The public grand opening, our recommendation will be in conjunction with May 18th when the final parking lot and landscaping is done. But anytime you want to go through the building, there's still some things being completed. You will see as we had mentioned before, the siding coming off and being replaced. That'll happen, and some other items that just the final touches and paint. And if you went in for a tour now, and you certainly can, it's your building, but it has a lot of blue tape on walls where little nicks have to be finished and all of that. So.
Jim, how soon will our vehicles be able to park around the building instead of out on the street?
Well, right now, our hope, and we're laying that plan out, is when staff, and I'll use December 18th,
Okay.
or at least the week of, before the end of December for sure, to have the actual employees in the building working daily. I anticipate that the patrol cars will be in those 4 spots. We put in a base coat of asphalt, and we'll have 2 public spots as you come off Richardson, and then a handicap spot. We had the first grade of asphalt tiered to ADA compliance for a handicap spot. And it's a trial by error of when POVs for employees.
Yeah.
There's that strip of asphalt from the new building towards the old building. So do we park employee vehicles there? Predictably, employee vehicles will be parked over by the post office still to make. We're also looking at, which currently has no parking signs, but the street is certainly wide enough to put a couple temporary parking spots out on Richardson Street.
Okay.
We're going to highly encourage the public to utilize the drop box until we sort everything out.
Yeah. My concerns are with the police cars. I think they're too vulnerable sitting out there on the street. We have a lot of traffic, especially semi trucks coming down through there.
Specifics to the village-owned police cars are what you're talking about,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Yeah, those we know will be, as you enter Richardson, there's asphalt that was extended there to the north.
Yeah.
That was measured out to fit the 4 patrol cars. So
Okay.
the village police cars will be parked there for 100% certain.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how soon we're gonna be getting them off the street, so.
I anticipate by December 18th. It all depends on the contractors and their need for accessibility.
Oh, yeah, I know, I mean, I go down there almost every day to go to the post office and that, and there's times, you know, both sides of the street are lined with cars, especially the 4 police cars. And, you know, my biggest fear is that somebody's gonna come down there with a truck or something.
Yeah.
And take out a couple of cars, and we can't really do without those cars, so. All right, thank you.
And then this is Saturday. It's exciting times. Christmas in the Berg. We had our last group meeting this morning. All the historical items will be in place. The additional stuff we're adding this year is a trolley ride, about a 17-minute ride through the village. Did believe, barring a train coming through, it's timed out pretty well. We have it audio narrated, and I'll send this week a copy of that audio to all the council members. It's about 14 and a half minutes and timed out as they're going through their drive. So we look forward to that. We put a specific social media campaign together about 8 days ago, and it's been interacted with, I think, over 20,000 times now. So getting some good mileage with that and exposure to the village and the Vicksburg. The judges have all been here, so the one thing is worth bringing up in past years. I think, so council members know, any council member that certainly wants to lead walking in the parade is more than invited. And then kind of I cut off with the judges and go to their area, but certainly encourage. I know Denny's helped in past years. I think talked to Scott. He's planning on you being there, kind of on the usual corner.
Yeah, me and JJ,
So we're looking forward to it. The one interesting as we got into social media, we did this, I shop small and kind of love the Berg campaign. Went to nearly every business, got pictures, and for about 9 days in a row, I think it was, put up specific messaging and different ideas. We did not boost that marketing at all, just asked people to share it. And as of earlier today, it's, I think, in excess of 85,000 people interacted with that and got some positive comments. It was interesting where all of a sudden I was getting pictures sent to me in it. So I think certainly we're encouraging everyone that can get their entire holiday shopping needs done somewhere in the Vicksburg, and would encourage anyone in earshot of this. I will be giving a radio interview with my friend Ken Lamphere in his studio Wednesday morning, spending with him. And though I certainly won't initiate it, I believe the topic of the village of Vicksburg will come up. So if it is, I will.
I'll call in.
I'll answer anything.
What time's the show?
9:10. He obviously starts before that, but
Yeah.
we worked into the 9:10 hour to be able to do that. So, and then last thing for me is really the windows. If you've had an opportunity to see them down at the Dollar General, Frederick's Construction, Mike and Stephanie Frederick are the owners of that building, and really put nice mural screens on the windows that are of the village of Vicksburg, the schools, the mill, of course Frederick's Construction and that. So if you get downtown, certainly encourage you. in the daytime to look at those. So I think it's a real nice addition into the entryway there of the business, and that was a 50/50 through a grant opportunity. So that's what I'll conclude and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Jim. Well, we'll jump to committee reports, and I was gonna be quite sarcastic about the Parks and Rec and the Rec being on holiday, but I must add that they have set the gauntlet. You're gonna see at the Christmas parade, the Parks and Rec float.
No, really?
So they've been working busily while they were off.
Just so,
I didn't
If
either, but
there's a
it is on now.
yeah, if there's a trophy for floats, I don't know if you just want to hand that over now. Um, just saying, they brought their A game. The whole Parks and Rec board showed up. Yesterday, we spent multiple hours. It's amazing what you can do with a staple gun, some duct tape, some Christmas lights. So,
So cool. We're looking forward to it. Thanks. So I got mine out of order. So I jumped to cats
On that,
on that.
because I don't want Parks and Rec to just assume they're getting a trophy. This year's parade has not only Parks and Rec entry, but 11 other new entries.
Nice. Very good.
Can I ask, was one of them Hair Mania? No?
No.
All right.
All right, so I'll update you on the cats real quick. So one of the things that came up was Battle Creek City is joined in on that micro transit. I think I was talking to you about that. Instead of doing the big bus routes, they're doing the smaller carriers. So City of Battle Creek has jumped on board. Airport traffic, I really didn't realize that CATS had input over that, but they reported on Delta is adding a whole new larger plane fleet to the Kalamazoo Airport. Instead of the 62 passenger, I think it went up to 86 passenger plane or jets, so they're increased their capacity. Velo, the new airlines there, has just added 3 new flights to Florida. And the building authority they've just initiated building a new storage and maintenance hangar. The road commission, the new building there they anticipate the opening late March, early April. The 131 south of Schoolcraft revamp, they expect to wrap that up by the 19th of December. And then in spring, we'll start the US 131 update north of Schoolcraft through the Shaver Road intersection.
That's the one that's gonna hurt.
Yeah. And Randy Thompson, supervisor for Comstock Township, they're having an open house December 13th in their new facility. So I took my notes. I tried to keep up with Trustee Fields on reporting for now I've lost my South County. Oh, then we'll jump to the next one, the South County Sewer. And it's nice that the only time I get to hear Mr. John Giesler this time is at that meeting, but he updated the courthouse improvements are nearing completion. The judges are moving in today, and sessions will begin on the 11th of December. Active projects for the South County Sewer and Water Authority. Gannett with the Village of Schoolcraft, they're working on a new water well to provide service to the village. They're looking for 4 acres in Schoolcraft Township to locate a new well. And that jumps to new business. So the new business part of it is they're looking at Lockport Water System expansion to service 131 in Schoolcraft Townships. Lapeer and Ulsh updated that they're working with both townships to update this opportunity. And they're forming meetings with they're pulling meetings together with Forming USA and Jay Rittenmeyer to see what interest they have to bringing that water line up south. On 131 South, yeah. And Lockport is much further south township. And old business is that they've updated and they're agreed that Thal and Gannett and Sherry Lutz will meet on the amendments of article and incorporation that we had passed several months ago. And that's it from cats. And that takes us to fire,
We don't meet till the 20th.
20th. Very good. Sir?
Planning Commission?
Yeah, they have a meeting next week.
Yep, we meet next week, and we're going to talk about the float we're building for the Christmas in the Village at the meeting. Because I wasn't quite aware it was a contest, and I got people who have lathes and bandsaws in their garages, so they're a little disappointed we're probably not having a float this year, but we'll get you next year, Wendy.
So that takes us to citizens' comments, if any citizen has a comment they'd like to make.
Yes, meetings on the 20th.
Yeah,
That's my comment.
very good. Seeing none or hearing none, we'll move on to trustees' time. I'll start down at my left, Mr. Trustee Olson.
Well, you stole my thunder on the courthouse, so. But what you didn't say was that they came in on budget. So no additional cost, and even though they were delayed a couple of months, but they did come in on budget. So, yep, thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
No comments tonight, but maybe some interesting news to share around Christmas.
Keep us in suspense.
Is this at the 18th council meeting, or do we have to go to your house on Christmas? We want to know. Might be bourbon involved. Might be bourbon.
Trustee Reeser.
I would just like to say that I am really looking forward to Saturday, and I'm hoping very much that it's not raining. It's supposed to be pretty warm, so I'm hopeful that it will. I don't think we're going to see a lot of sun, but hopefully it won't be raining and snowing. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully my family's coming. So
Excellent. Trustee Fields.
Also looking forward to Saturday. I think it's going to be another banner event in the Berg. The I Shop Small, you were talking about that, and I have to say I love the pictures. Everybody in the stores taking the time to get their picture taken with the sign. So that was a great idea. It really took off, and it's been really fun to watch.
Trustee Holmes.
Quick shout out to Mr. Mallory for you and staff, what was done with shopping small in the village. It's, to me, that is quintessential to, you know, this village and what can be done. And I think you guys tapped right into it, and it's really cool. 85,000. Wow. I'm going to sleep well tonight knowing that. I also am excited about this weekend. It's going to be great to see us continue to expand. I mean, the idea that we've got additional people with floats in the parade. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be here. My family and I, a long time ago, we agreed upon getting together somewhere warm with palm trees and swimming pools. So I will, however, be looking at our camp down on Prairie in Maine and watching, and hopefully hopefully we double the number of people we had last year. But have fun. I'll be thinking of you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. President Pro Tem Keller.
I also looking forward to this coming weekend. It'll be my family Christmas with my side of the family at our house, so we'll have a lot of people there and have all 4 grandkids. So it'll be very, very exciting to have them experience Christmas in the Berg. And the annual bell ringing for the Lions Club is this weekend, so Friday from 4 to 6 at Family Fair, you may see somebody you might know. So Santa may make an appearance. So just, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think we're gonna all have a great time down there.
Very good. I'll be quick. You know, looking forward to invited everybody at Cats to the Christmas in the Berg, and just to say some of the things that Mr. Mallory and his staff do with social media. I forget, I think it might have been Randy Thompson popped up. He goes, "Hey, what's that new business in town? The Rec Room." And I knew what it was because I saw Jim's post. about it. So that's how this all works. That's how the messages get out. People that you wouldn't normally know about what's going on in Vicksburg ask us questions about what's happening. So that was pretty cool. And thanks for that good discussion tonight. You know, I understand totally where your passions are at and your responsibilities lie. You know, I heard something of challenging Jim and the staff to seek out more funds. I just have to remind us that he did find us $3.7 million. That's a lot of funds, and I think Jim does a lot of work securing financial stability for this village. So thank you for that. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night. Meeting adjourned.